I believe that worship, any kind of worship in any place for any reason, can be a vision of some not yet but hoped for reality. It can be a reminder of, or even a vision of, beloved community. So I come to worship when I come on Sunday to remember for myself what the kingdom of God looks like. For a very brief moment, my ticket gets punched and my passport gets stamped, and I am standing in the city of heaven for me. And that is enough. That is often enough for me to face the coming days, whatever is going to happen. Now, as a reminder, these are my beliefs and practices. Fountain Street doesn't have any creeds, but it does have bylaws. It's something very unique and foundational about this place that goes all the way back to our founding is the practice of the freedom of the pulpit, or the privilege of the pulpit is called in some places. This privilege means that I may speak freely, here, pursuant to Article 7.6 of the bylaws of the church. And I do my level best to articulate the things that I suspect are true, and you can't fire me for it. So this too means that you are under absolutely no expectation or compulsion to agree with a single word that I or any minister of this church says. And so in this way, it protects both of us. I don't speak for you, you speak for yourself. And I am not the mouthpiece of Fountain Street Church. And I think in any case, it doesn't need one. So what I say doesn't define what we believe. And this can be very hard for outsiders to understand. But this pulpit is a free pulpit, and you've got to work this out, or this place will make you crazy. When you invited Alan Watts to preach from this pulpit in 1960, it did not make this place a Zen Buddhist temple. When Malcolm X and Kwame Ture spoke from here, they spoke for millions, but they did not speak on behalf of the Fountain Street Church. When Christopher Hitchens stood here in 2008, it did not make Fountain Street an anti-theist church. Nor did Noah Sifula's words make this a mosque, nor Rabbi Al Lewis make this into a Reformed Jewish temple. You understand? Reverend Don Hoekstra put it beautifully during a talk he gave in 2001 when he compared this place to other places, and he simply said, we are more interested in process than product. So these are my words, mine. I pursue the beloved community as a spiritual practice. Worship is part of that. But I use my memory as an instrument of self-care. And when things around me become very dark and cruel, or I get anxious about the current state of affairs, the politics of this nation, such that I can hardly even bring myself to remember to practice gratitude, which is my other spiritual practice, I think about the beloved community, and I try to remember times in my life and in my travels around the world when I lived and at times worked in some countries and in some places and with some people who were much stronger than me. These are people who lived in very dangerous and oppressive times and places. I think about my Palestinian friend Naif, who lived in a tiny home near Ramallah, where he once took me onto the roof of his little house, and we could just barely see over the top of the apartheid wall that Israel had built right near his village. And he traced the outline of where his family's orchard had been on the other side of that wall, where for 800 years his family had worked that orchard before the bulldozers came. And then I remember the second time I went to visit him at his house, and I asked him again about his family's orchard. And this time, he didn't take me up on the roof. He took his little daughter, Susa, and he put her on his knee, and he said, she is my orchard. Well, I think about a time when I was in northeastern Mexico, in Coahuila, and my friend Machis is driving me up the side of a mountain in this VW Bug that had no business driving anywhere, let alone up a mountain. And this mountain, it's more of a hillside, it's been stripped bare. It's a barren, this mountain had been ruined by the NAFTA mining that was taking place there. But Machis had promised to show me the most beautiful place in the world. And then we arrived, and he was right, and it was. It was in the very center of a little village that he took me there with his extended family, gathered around a tiny child bundled up in this white dress that it looked like the baby was inside of a cloud. It was a huge dress. For la fiesta de bautismo. This little baby's face was shining like the sun. This is my practice of remembrance and meditation that teaches me, and it reminds me that I often fail to see things that are directly in front of my eyes because I'm distracted or myopic or focused on something else. Frequently, we Homo sapiens overrepresent the things that divide, distinguish, or frustrate us about other people or the circumstances in our life. And we do this, we have this bias because 100,000 years ago, our ancestors lived or died by their ability to recognize patterns, and they became very adept at seeing them. For example, some of you have been to see my property, my little sort of home in the woods. And in the boundary between two different fields, there is good food in great abundance, if you know how to spot it. In one patch of ground, you're going to find these sweet, delicious golden ground cherries right there beside the deadly poisonous fruits of the wild solanum, horse nettles. And there's bushels of wild carrots growing in that same spot, right next to the exact same hemlock that killed Socrates. And these plants look so similar to one another, but I can tell the difference at a glance. And most of you may not be able to do that, but I could teach you how to do that in an afternoon. And that single afternoon, that experience of learning how to see those subtle differences would be like turning the key in a lock inside your mind. It was the keen eyesight of our ancestors that was shaped over the course of 100,000 years of trial and error to see subtle differences and to notice patterns and then to embrace bias as a survival instinct. We were so damn good at this trick that now, without a second thought, we see patterns everywhere we look. We see patterns that appear to be screaming to us, danger, warning, danger. So active is our mind in the sifting and sorting that we can live 100 years amidst a world of beauty and wonder and go to our own graves having seen nothing but danger and felt nothing but anxiety. This irresistible blindness to the real beauty of the world for Maimonides, the great sage, was the meaning behind the banishment from the Garden of Eden, the metaphor of the banishment from the original garden. Our ancestors, with this understanding, they never actually left the Garden of Paradise, but rather in their pride, they simply forgot how to see it. So consider a parable. A man is preparing to leave for work in the morning, and he has said his goodbyes to his children and his spouse, and he has his briefcase, and he's ready to head out the front door and get into his car and become morning traffic. But he can't find his car keys. And he looks in the little bowl by the front door, and he scans the coffee table, and then he searches the kitchen counter, and the clock is ticking, and he runs upstairs because he thinks he might have left his car keys on the bedside table. And finally, in a moment of near despair, he turns to the bedroom mirror, and maybe he's going to give himself a lecture about getting organized in the morning. And in that mirror, he sees the reflection of a man holding a set of car keys in his left hand. Yeah. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who went searching for something only to discover that he was holding it in his hand the entire time. When I was a new father for the first time, I was perpetually exhausted, and countless were the number of times that I would be pushing the stroller down the sidewalk, and I would look down at the stroller I was pushing, and my God, the stroller is empty. And my heart leaping into my throat, my God, the baby is gone. I start panicking, the stroller is empty, the baby is gone. I'm holding the baby in my arms and pushing the stroller. Yeah. Where are my glasses? They're on my head. It's always, this is it. This business of seeing the corporeal, proximate realness of the beloved community. I had planned on preaching this series on beloved community a couple months ago, and then I learned last Saturday, Reverend Don Hoekstra had passed away. And I thought that I could honor him by reading some of his words about this subject today, the words we just heard. He taught, Reverend Hoekstra taught here at Fountain Street on this topic many, many times. As we just heard, in his words, to live in the present moment is a miracle. The kingdom of heaven is always and only present. The love we all long for deep within our innermost heart of hearts is already present. The love that we long for is here. It's not somewhere else, or it's not even someone else. It's not in some galaxy light years away, or in some supposed deity by whatever name. And it was not more fully present ages ago, nor will it be more fully present in sages and saints of the past or some anticipated messianic figure in the future. The love and acceptance and meaning and purpose we long for, we ponder and await is already here within each and all of us this very morning. Amidst the moment that we're in, amidst the frustrations that are assailing us in America today, I am often asked, almost every week I get asked specifically, why didn't I address some particular political topic, some scandal, some new galloping horror on the news in my sermon that Sunday? And sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't do it sufficiently, or I don't make myself clear. Last week, this awful, awful assassination. This week, this censorship, the firing of a television host, the gradual end of things that we thought were perhaps more permanent. The ICE raids, the occupation of our cities, the ongoing genocide in Palestine. And if you wonder why I don't speak to some new horror each and every Sunday, it's not because I'm not paying attention. And it sure as hell isn't because I don't care. It's all important. But we have more work to do together than I can accomplish by giving us all a weekly reminder of how shitty everything is today. Okay? And you can get that if you want it. You can watch it on YouTube or TikTok. You can read Heather Cox Richardson. You should. And many, many more voices, each probably more informed or talented than I am. I'm not as funny as Jon Stewart. And I'm not as insightful as Sam Seder. And I'm not as brilliant as Amy Goodman or as clever as Hassan Piker or Natalie Wynn or these other voices, but you don't need to come here to get that. You can stay home and become sufficiently outraged just staring at your phone. And if I thought that the way that we would fix this broken world was to be found in sort of endlessly analyzing its brokenness, or raising more awareness, or using whatever small authority is afforded to a single member of the clergy, just a single member of the cloth preaching in one pulpit in America, if I thought that this was the key to undoing this destruction, I probably would spend more time writing on my Substack than in my sermons. But I'm after something else. I am after a vision of the kingdom of heaven. You know, the word heaven, it doesn't appear in the New Testament, and obviously it's translated into there in English. Heaven is a placeholder word for a word that we've never really managed to translate. In the Greek, which is what Jesus' words were written down in, though he didn't speak it, it's the word auranos. And it's the same as the personification of the Greek god Uranus, the sky god. And the Greek is like something like the realm of the sky. The English word heaven that we get comes to us by way of very old words from Germany and Iceland, Helfan, the hidden aboves, or back through the ages. We can go all the way back to the Proto-Indo-European root of the word heaven, which is something like ekmo, which means a great hard thing of impenetrable darkness. It just means a shroud. So when I read the Greek and I see the words, the kingdom of heaven, I try to get back to the root of the thing itself. And in my mind and my heart, I do the editing that I need to do. I edit away the English, the centuries of supernatural, magical thinking, fairy tales of cities, golden light floating on clouds. I strike the words, the kingdom of heaven, and replace them with what I believe is their most primitive and fundamental root, the hidden realm. The hidden realm, as it is written in the Gospel of Thomas, of the kingdom of heaven. If those who guide you say, look, the kingdom is in the sky, then the birds are closer than you. Or if they say, look, it is in the sea, then the fish already have it. The kingdom is inside of you. It speaks and says, I am the light that is over all things. I am all. From me all came forth, and to me all attained. Split a piece of wood, and I am there. Lift up a stone, and you will find me there. Or if you can't read the Gospel of Thomas because you can't break free of this thing, then in the 17th chapter of the Gospel of Luke, when Jesus, so exhausted and tired and clearly disappointed in the blindness of his accusers, they ask him to tell them the day that this magical world will suddenly appear. Point to the kingdom of heaven like it's a mark on a map or some land that they can go and colonize and own. And he turns to them with fire in his eyes. He turns to the Pharisees and declares that they can't see it, nor will people say, here it is or there it is, because the kingdom of heaven is within you. The hidden realm is within you. And so I come here on Sunday because the kingdom of heaven is within you. It has always been within you. And I've seen it. And so if I don't maybe preach enough about some broken thing in the world, it's because I've seen it with my eyes. I've seen the genocide in Palestine. I drove an ambulance with men who lived it and carried the broken body of children who experienced it and broke bread with them and danced the debka at their weddings. And such pain and horror I've never witnessed before nor since. But the kingdom of heaven was there at that wedding. And such pain and horror never witnessed before, but the kingdom of heaven was there. And seeing the bloody violence of the fascists in America with masks on their faces, terrorizing black and brown communities in American cities, destroying immigrant families, who sat with those families in their pain and despair, and all then at the table then, still, in moments of celebration, at the quinceañera, there is the kingdom of heaven. Reverend Donald Hoekstra taught that it is not a place that we're going, or some place out there waiting for us, but it's always here, right before us, right in front of us, right inside of us. desperately searching for it. We can search high and low. We can tear the house apart looking for it while holding it in our hands. And so every single Sunday I come here to see it. And I do. As we're about this work of building the beloved community, of growing the beloved community, we've got a chance to see it. We have a chance to see it, the heavenly city, here in this room at this moment. And it flickers in and out of our vision like the flashing colors through this sunlit prism through the windows of this room. But it's never left. 1,000 years we spent, 1,000 generations on the savannah wandering, it never left us. And another 1,000 spent tilling the earth, forcing it to conform to agriculture by the sweat of our brow, and it never left us. Through settlements and cities, from railways to highways, or we could travel on to the stars in the galaxy, and yet it will not have left us. And we may spend another 1,000 generations searching for it out there. We will not find it out there, because it is here. It is only ever now, and it is within you. And this is what my eyes see, and they speak to my heart and say, behold, the heavenly city. We can touch it even when we're together, when we look into the faces of the people in this very room today. And so I see it. I'll continue to see it. And I'll do my best to describe what I see. But I see it today, shining in glory before my very eyes. Amen.